Special Forces operatives, Hollywood celebrities, and leading entrepreneurs and C-level executives while speaking and hosting leadership workshops around the world. Folks, I got good news and bad news. The good news is it was an absolutely amazing interview. The bad news is we only got half of it. So it was too good to not post. So we're going to pick it up where Ryan and I are talking about values. And we are going to have the talking points to that on values, action, leadership in the show notes. So I hope you enjoy this abbreviated version of our interview with Ryan Munsey. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Yep, I'm here.
Yeah, we do that with the office staff once a year because
cool.
We have new staff. We hire new staff, and they go on to their careers, and we want their values, their personal values, to align with our company values. And it's really important that they understand that, and then going forward to develop those values. And I say to people that want to make change, most of the time people come into a chiropractor's office, it's because they're in pain. And I look at it as a much bigger picture is, what was it, Tom Landry, a coach gets you to do the things you don't want to do to allow you to become the person you want to become. And that's how I look at when someone comes to see me. When I get these 300-pound guys, they're like, I bent over to pick up the mail and my back went out. Like, is that really? Like, how heavy was that mail? Like, what'd you order? We need to look at the totality of what somebody's doing, see if those values match their actions. And for most people, as you know, when you work with them, they actually have no idea what their values are.
Right.
It's a great exercise to do.
It really is. It's invaluable. I mean, it serves as a filter and a screening process for opportunities that come our way. For people that, may or may not be in our lives. And again, for every decision and choice that we make, whether it's a micro decision throughout the day or a macro big life decision. And having those to serve as sort of your right and left boundaries, it really does help you kind of stay on track, as cliche as that sounds.
It really does. And these are, so the values, how do we say this? The values are the capstone on the pyramid, but it's everything that you do underneath that supports those values. So you can't have a capstone if you're not supporting it. It just can't be. It doesn't exist. So you have to support your values with your actions. And your actions are, let's say one of your values, my top value is health, because I didn't have health. I had my daughter, who we talked about, she didn't sleep through the night for 5 years. So I was 300 pounds. I had high cholesterol, high blood pressure, everything. And I realized that, my God, I'm not going to be around to see her play sports, to be her best self, if I don't take care of myself. So it didn't matter that I was making great money, that I loved doing what I was doing. I was so tired and so cratered by not sleeping that I was truly, truly, truly unhealthy. And it was a switch that flipped for me, and I realized I've got to make this a priority.
Yeah, I love hearing stories like that, and that's so powerful, not just for you, but when we think about that from your daughter's perspective too. When I get to talk on leadership, there's two statements that I always make. It's lead yourself first and lead always, and you did both of those things in that example. And when our actions align with our values, we are, whether we know it or not, leading always. And if people have kids, then you'll understand immediately the importance of this, because kids learn more from what we do than anything we can ever say. And what you showed your daughter in making that choice was that family and health and being there and being able to show up for her meant more to you than money or, work, right? And, just think about how many people are demonstrating the opposite to their children. And, she may not realize that then, she may not even realize it now, but when she's, mid to late 20s, going into 30s, starting a family of her own, she's going to start to think about those things, and she'll realize that. And those are things that, like, you can never go back and undo or change those things. And so maybe that's an unintended consequence. Maybe it's very conscious in the moment for some people. But, leading yourself first, leading always, those are, I think those are inextricably linked to actions being aligned with values.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I want to talk about the book, but you just keep bringing up these nuggets that I want to go through for people. And what we found is, as an aside, the more real that we are on our podcast, the more the message gets out there. It's not, it's not Mike sitting up on high and telling everybody, you should do this, you should do that. I go through the same struggles, the obstacle. The obstacle, Ryan Holiday, the obstacle is the way. Like it's these are put in our path. So my daughter, Point Pleasant Beach, you were down here. It's a very small town, 3,000 people or so, and she got to play some really good soccer down here, and she's like, I want to challenge myself. This is at the time she's a freshman in high school. I want to challenge myself. I want to try out for the Olympic training program. I'm like, okay, go for it. Let's see what happens. The worst thing's going to happen. So she does that. She does really well. She then decides, I want to play at an even higher level than I'm playing now. And I'm like, all right, well, there's only like 2 programs in the state where you can play, and those girls are playing at a Division I level. You would really be coming against the competition of the hardest competition in the country. So she tries out and makes it, and we're traveling 150 miles round trip. After 2 years of doing this 4 days a week, she number one, she was the best player down here. She goes up there and she's just another player. She plays behind a girl that's committed to University of Pittsburgh, Boston College, University of Vermont, like high Division I players. Yeah. And she has a choice. Ryan, we're talking a 15 and 16-year-old. So she has a choice. She gets knocked down again and again and again. And she has a choice. Do I quit or do I push forward? And she, in credit to her, she kept pushing forward. And it allowed her to realize in this 2-year period that she could play with anybody. She's on the field. She wasn't getting a lot of playing time, but when she was on the field, she just made it happen and still didn't get a lot of playing time. So she says, I realize this, Dad, that I don't want to play Division I soccer. I want a full college experience. This little school down in Virginia really likes me. I'd like to go and visit. And from there, she had the intelligence, emotional intelligence, to say, I want a full college experience. I want a good coach. I want to be near the beach. I want it warm. And I want a program that's going to have my degree. And this school checked it all off for her. And soccer was the vehicle that allowed her to do it. But the bigger picture was, just like you said, it was a line in the sand. Like most kids, we see it all the time. Most people, once they get knocked down once, they turn around and walk away.
Yeah, and that's, there's a lot in there and some overlap with my high school experience as well. And I think, for your daughter to be able to realize now that she has that strength, that, she can get knocked down, that she can get benched or get turned down or get overlooked or however that plays out or whatever that narrative might be for somebody else, for her to be able to draw on that for the rest of her life. And I get to work with a lot of current and a lot of former athletes. And, one of the things that over my 15, almost 20 years now of helping people, there's something that we learn from sports that carries over into every other area of our life. And even people with military experience, I noticed this as well. But there's coachability. People are used to being coached. They're used to being a part of teams. They're used to being, they're used to competing. They're used to people actively trying to prevent them from carrying out their objectives. Right? Like if you're playing soccer, there's 11 other people on the other team trying to stop you from putting the ball in the net.
Yes.
If you play basketball, there's 5 other people trying to stop you at all times. And then so when we get into business, if you're an entrepreneur or in the professional world, there's nobody stopping you, physically stopping you from picking up the phone call and making the call that you need to make. Like it's really easy because there's no active opposition other than yourself. And I think, and kind of relating this to what we're talking about is, with mental mastery and being able to pursue your goals, when people come from a background of sports and they realize like I can get knocked down, I can take these hits, I can keep going. There's just such a resolve that gets built into us as individuals that I think I don't think that it can be overstated how important that is. And I see that time and time again with entrepreneurs and business owners that I work with who are former athletes, and they just bring that mindset to the rest of their lives. The other thing that I picked up on that I thought was really cool is, you mentioned how long the drive is to, back and forth. And, I played travel soccer when I was in high school as well. And
Sure.
We didn't have to drive that far, but our practices were probably 45 minutes to an hour away from, where we lived.
Yep.
And when I was in high school, my mom worked an hour from our house in a different direction. So this is something that, again, like I had very little conscious awareness of this at the time. I mean, I was, your typical 15 to 18-year-old guy who, didn't really give much thought to what his parents did to make things happen for them. But as I look back, my parents' actions showed me what was important to them. And I have learned so much about, how to show up for the people who are in my life that I care about. My mom would drive an hour to work, drive an hour home from work, take me to soccer practice an hour across town, wait, and then drive me home. And, we'd be getting home at like 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And like, I mean, that's a lot of sacrifice.
Yes.
For a parent. And, I'm forever grateful for that, both for what they actually did in the moment, but also for the lessons downstream from that. And, again, these are just touching on what we said earlier about leading always and kind of that impact that you make through the way you show up and what you show the people in your lives about what matters to you.
Yeah, it's really interesting. My health is number one, family's number two. Without my health, I don't have my family. I could have made millions of dollars. I can have the wealth. I could have all of those things, but without that health, number one. And number two, I want to spend time with my family. Like I just heard the other day that